Hey, it's Joshua Gar from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And every video and photo that you're seeing in this feature focus was taken on the cameras of the LG G3. Why don't we just jump right in and take a look at some foodie pictures. Now this video is taken at 4K and you'll see the 4K video sample at the end of this linked so that you can take a look at all the 4K goodness. But the reason why I wanted to look at these photos first before I got into anything is that they already show some of the lower light situations. In this case, we just had the lamp shining down on the Korean barbecue grill, and as we do the 100 crop, we do see that detail is pretty good, but a level of noise is still very easily seen throughout. Did you know that Friday was National Donut Day? Well, we do have some donuts here in these pictures, and we're going to zoom into those as well. Here's a picture of some right now getting really close in there using the auto mode on there, and as we crop in, we do see that level of grain throughout. It is something that we're going to see throughout all of these crops in these lower light situations, but OIS Plus seems to be doing a very good job still, as we still have quite a bit of detail. It's not too blurred, as the stabilization does a good job of keeping things at least under control. And in this particular case, we zoom right in, and there is a little bit of a blur on there. Maybe my hand was a little too shaky, but still looks pretty good. Here's a selfie that I took using that gesture where you put your hand up, and once the phone detects your hand, you create a fist, and then a 3-second countdown happens. It is pretty nice to use as it keeps you from having to fiddle with the buttons. After that, we have Corona Del Mar, the very next day, where we took the camera out to the beach to see what we could get out of there. And it's not a full daylight situation where we have cloud cover, as you can see up there, but it was also a good chance to use HDR. Now, we're going to go ahead and put HDR in here, as you can see, and not only does the sky look a lot better, you see a lot more vibrancy throughout all of the at least darker colors throughout the photo. Here's another HDR example, as we have the regular photo and then the HDR photo. It does brighten things up quite a bit as it takes those different exposures. Here's my favorite one though, as even though my finger is right there, you're going to see what I mean when it comes to HDR right here. The HDR takes different exposures, and you can see that the rose on there looks really great. It may not be fully exposed, but it still looks a lot better than the original, and it looks really nice with the sun in the background. As you probably saw in that video, the stabilization was actually pretty good, as OIS Plus also helps with the video. I have pretty steady hands, but it's nice to get that extra boost. After that, we'll go into the specs. This is the 13 megapixel shooter, and I'm using it at the full resolution at 4:3 aspect ratio. While cropping into certain photos, I did want to show this one because it looked like it was able to get the focus pretty well, but you see that little bit of blur because it was a moving subject, but it didn't do a very bad job, and that's because of the laser focus on the back. It does a really good job. This camera is leaps and bounds better in terms of focusing speed when compared to the LG G2. And when you turn on the camera for the first time, you'll notice that it is a touch to focus and also touch to capture interface, and you don't even have any elements on the screen until you actually want them to when you hit the menu button. Unless otherwise stated, the vast majority of these photos are taken at the full auto, and it is the mode that you're going to be using the most because you actually don't get too much control over the various settings for your photos. You can change the resolution, you can change the size of the videos that you end up recording, but after that, there really isn't a whole lot that you can do in terms of catering the shot to what you need it to be. So this camera is made to be the kind that gets you the photos that you need without much fuss at all. And you know what? I will admit it does a pretty good job. It might be nice to change the ISO or maybe the white balance in certain cases, but for the most part, all these photos, as you can see, look pretty good already, even on this overcast day. As far as color profile goes, you will see that these pictures are all a little bit warmer on that scale, but I do prefer that in my photos more than having a cool photo, because that blue hue that you get on cooler temperature photos does tend to look a little bit less attractive than warmer tone photos, which is what you get on the LG G3. So ultimately, the G3's camera is a great performer. Whether or not it's the best one out there is something we're going to have to save for our comparisons when I do camera shootouts amongst all of the flagship phones now that they're all basically out. But ultimately, the laser focusing system is one that works incredibly well, and it makes taking pictures on this camera not only speedy, it makes it a breeze and also incredibly fun.
What?
Alright, let's take a look at the last two in this final section. We'll take a look at Panorama, and I'll sweep through this entire photo right now so you can see that not only is it stitched together pretty well, actually, it is also pretty well exposed throughout. And I will say that that's probably because we did have some cloud cover, so the lighting was pretty uniform throughout the entire photo. We didn't have any sunspots that would change the exposure one way or the other. So you do have a pretty uniform lighting situation, and also the color profile, like I said before, has that warmer tone to it. And then of course, to end the day, we do have this sunset photo, and here it is, just going through it right now. This is a darker photo because we're just looking at the ocean and all the cloud cover above, but ultimately this is a panorama that looks really nice, and it's probably one of the better panorama modes that I've used on any phone thus far. And finally, the magic focus. It's a mode that's available where you'll take a bunch of photos at different depths, and you'll be able to select between all of them, as you can see here in these screenshots from the interface. I did find magic focus to kind of work. It wasn't necessarily the most reliable one. It may not be my favorite mode on the LG G3, but at least in this case, it did kind of get the job done, making my whiskey glass better in focus than the rest of the field. And finally, to bring it full circle, we have one more low light test using Dr. Oid right here. This has a lamp shining on it, and then I turn off the lamp and you'll see the grain and the noise just goes all the way throughout. Turn on the flash though, and you'll notice that the flash is probably not one of the best performers out there. It really does harshen out the middle of the photo. It doesn't have a very uniform look to it. Here's another example with my coaster. Turn off the light, there's all the noise, but once you turn on the flash, it definitely does not look as good at all as the original photo if you had good lighting, because it's a pretty harsh flash. It doesn't create a nice uniform light throughout. Finally, my last two cameras right here with a couple of items in the background. Again, the noise is all there, and then you turn on the flash and the middle portion of the photo gets too harsh compared to the rest. So the flash is not the best performer, but it is there if you really do need it. And so there you have it for this camera shootout using the cameras of the LG G3. You can see right there on the left side we have a 4K video sample using a bunch of clips that I took with this camera, so you can see the video quality for yourself. Aside from the warmer tone throughout all of the photos, I had a really great time with this camera, especially because of the fast laser guided focus, and we will go into that a little bit more with my full review, which is coming very soon, so stay tuned to Android Authority for all of the best LG G3 coverage, and keep it tuned here. Drop us some likes, subscribe if you haven't already, and remember that Android Authority is your source for all things Android.